grabbed this camera super quick because something exciting is happening. I'm headed to Rhode Island, and I just found that out today. Why am I going to Rhode Island? Well, because Nerf reached out to me. They want me to take a look at some of their new blasters coming up this year, but they want me to do it at their headquarters, which I've never been before, and it's always been like an exciting thing to think about, like, where do all the toys get made? So this video is going to be about my journey to Rhode Island, products that I see, and my thoughts on everything. I got a pack. So a couple days have passed since I got my first official confirmation that I'm going to this thing, and a lot's happened. It seems like Nerf has even taken to sharing some promotional footage of what they're going to be showing at this event. I think it's all due to how quickly the internet moves, because a lot of people were posting pictures, which is interesting, right? Like, it's so quick how information spreads and stuff like that. One thing that these pictures don't have that I'm going to be able to get access to is to play around with them, see how they feel, see how they look, and how they fire, operate, all that kind of good stuff. I've got to make my final checks, make sure that I've got all my gear with me. I think I'm pretty well set. Let's get in the air, shall we? Now I'm in Rhode Island, and I'm starting to notice on social media who's flying up here, as well as, crazy story, but foam from above, he was just waiting in the Uber line, and we were able to catch a ride to this hotel together, which I think was absolutely cool. It's been a minute since we got to hang and talk Nerf shop. So, really excited for this. It's a beautiful day. I want to kind of see some of the city, so I think I'm going to do that. All of the stuff is going to be taking place tomorrow. But that's not to say fun can't happen right now. Here is just a little snippet of me hanging out with Retro Toy Envy. It was so amazing to meet up in person. We've been talking online for like years, and that's just kind of how these things go, right? Like, you meet people within your space or like adjacent to your space, and you talk with them and you never meet them. And he was so awesome to meet up, and just to really appreciate the hospitality and cart me around Rhode Island a little bit so that I can kind of get a flavor of the town. I gotta get going now because there are people waiting in the lobby. We're all gonna get some rides over to Pawtucket. We're gonna see the new Nerf N Series, and maybe, just maybe, we can figure out what happened to Murph. What did happen to Murph? Murph, if you're okay, blink if you have eyes. All right, down in the lobby, I found some familiar faces. And, like, I think this place is a little too fancy for us. Like, I get excited picking toys out of the trash, so, like, I'm kind of excited. Like,
I haven't found a single blaster in the garbage here.
No, I'm disappointed. Yeah. We know why we're here now, and it's to talk about these guys. This is the N1 Dart, this is the N Series. You might be wondering, why am I not seeing Hasbro headquarters? Well, you will a little bit later in a very specific section of it. But for the next portion, we were asked to keep cameras off. We were seated in a auditorium-like room, and given the whole genesis of what makes the N1 Dart as well as the N Series so special and meaningful to the people at Nerf who've been working on this for years. Right up front, the representatives from Hasbro, which included people like design, brand, marketing, like we had a whole bunch of people. They were very sure to point out that this is for people who are 8 and older. This is not the 14 plus category. So think of this as like the evolution of Elite, more so than the evolution of anything like Ultra, Rival, the Nerf Pro stuff. This is very much 8+, and that was explicitly said multiple times, again and again. I'm guessing that's probably to preempt the question of, like, why aren't these darts firing, like, faster? Which makes the question, like, why differentiate between the two? A lot of that has to do with worldwide regulation. Hasbro being a multinational company, they have to deal with regulations not only in the United States, Canada, Mexico, but all over the world. And I think if you've spent any time in the hobby, you are quite familiar with how difficult regulations can be in Europe, as well as Australia. And I know the Nerfers that live in those areas can probably leave a comment about just how difficult it can be to get specific Nerf blasters. And so that's one of the challenges that Nerf and Hasbro are saddled with, is how do you get a blaster into as many hands as possible? Because at the end of the day, they are a toy company. They want to sell toys. They want to sell toys that are fun as well as purchasable. They can't just make something extremely fun and then have it be regulated out of existence, which was extremely interesting when they started talking about Mega XL, Ultra, Rival, stuff like that. They were saying that there are specific challenges about bringing those globally, and I think we all know that story. And again, this is for like the 8+ crowd. If we're looking at the 14+ blaster category, then things are a little more flexible. But when we're looking at that 8+ thing, safety is paramount. As we talk about safety, I think we all understand that the speed of the dart is one of the primary concerns. There has to be a limit on there. Just from a material standpoint, foam can only take so much energy, but again, thinking worldwide regulations, they can only go so fast. What kind of shocked everybody in the room, even the most seasoned among us, I think was the fact that they are now considering noise, like decibel level, as one of the safety regulations to keep in mind when they're building blasters for 8+. Like, everybody had a lot of questions about that. They were good questions, but I was curious, like, what kind of regulations are out there? I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination. I struggle to find any sort of concrete noise restrictions, and when we go globally, right, like, I don't speak very many languages, so if they were in other languages other than English or French, I wouldn't know. Just simply wouldn't know. However, I was able to find some general guidelines about toy noise safety. A lot of this was, like, aimed towards electronic toys, and the interesting thing about Nerf is it's like a mechanical toy. There are some electronics if we go flywheel, but generally speaking, there are, certain levels, certain decibel levels that are recommended to be below. 80 decibels is the upper limit, and if you're kind of wondering what that would sound like, think of like a vacuum cleaner, a busy downtown street, car wash, a food blender, things like that. Those are about 80 decibels. So it's interesting, right? Like, if you're using a blaster over the course of a couple hours, how much exposure are you having to those noise levels? I'm not the scientist, but it's something interesting that they have to consider. Another thing mentioned is that the new N1 Dart is the Nerf Dart for the 8+ category. So of course the question became, what is going to happen to Elite? And the simplest answer for that is that it will be phased out over a period of time. I mean, think about it. It can't just happen overnight. Now, what that means for things like Roblox collaborations, Minecraft, what is it? What else is there? There's Fortnite, all the Nerf Limited stuff. Like, what does that look like with the Nerf Dart, the Elite Dart, or the N1 Dart? I think it depends on where it is in the production cycle. In terms of the N1 Dart, people are going to be wondering, is it better than the Elite Dart? And the people at Hasbro did a whole bunch of tests. They showed us very impressive slides using a lot of science, and they were even using like wind tunnels to see the aerodynamics of a dart. Very cool stuff. And what they're telling us that they're seeing is about a 20% jump in performance over Nerf Elite, and then we're also seeing a 15% increase in accuracy, which was one of the things that they wanted to ensure, is that if they were moving towards a new dart, that it would be markedly better than the Nerf Elite Dart. And when we're talking about the Nerf Elite Dart, I think we all know it's like the full-length dart, and a lot of other companies are in on that. I think Nerf building a new dart allows them to differentiate themselves once again from the competition. It's all very interesting stuff because there are financial reasons for everything, there are play-based reasons for everything, and they're all inextricably tied together in a big giant ball. And once everything was shown, once we got the whole presentation, the whole slide deck, we were able to go try the Nerf N Series with the N1 darts. So let's jump back to Rhode Island in the atrium where they had the whole display, and you can kind of see over the progression of the clips that I'm going to show just how messy everything actually is. So we've got all of the N Series stuff that they have available right now right in front of me, so we're going to get to take a look at this and show you what it's all about. And in the back you hear a bunch of other Nerf content creators just having a good time with this. We're some of the first people to try this out, test it out, and see what it's like. You're gonna see me use a whole range of blasters. This is probably one of the most accessible of the N Series. This is called the Agility. If it looks familiar, right? It looks like a disruptor, it looks like a strong arm, but it's got a really cool feature. It's got this priming handle in the back. It's a great inclusion. I think more blasters need to have stuff like this. How does this all work? Because this is a new type of dart. It doesn't have the hole in the center. There are no dart posts anymore. They're gone. It's all the N1 Dart for the N Series. And what you do is you drop one in, just like so. You prime the blaster, and then you fire it, right? There are a whole bunch of other blasters in this line, some really great ones, and the one I want you to pay attention to specifically is called the Infinite. It's got this really cool battle belt magazine concept that is not only like functional and practical, but it's a cool gimmick too. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I like a good gimmick. So we've got Maritime Foam on dart sweep duty right now, but I'm gonna test these out. Hopefully he's quick because these darts are gonna come flying. Clear. Oh, he's done. All right. So this one, again, like the one I talked about, this is the Infinite. This thing holds 40 of the N1 darts. All right, here we got the little guy of the line. This is the Ward. It is a 2-dart Smart AR system blaster. It's got a really nice oversized O-ring to prime this thing, and And yeah, that's how this thing works. We've got the pinpoint. This thing kind of looks like an eagle point a little bit, but it's a pinpoint. And bolt prime. We've got one more blaster. Believe it or not, it's right down here at my feet. It's called the Sprinter. So I'm back at the hotel. Boy, I saw a lot today. Started off with the N Series, the N1 Dart, which is going to be Nerf's flagship dart. From every indication, from everything that they were saying to everybody in the room there, is that the N1 Dart is the new Nerf Dart. I think it's important to talk about the construction of the dart, because that's really the big story from the N Series, is the N1 Dart. And if you think it's like a solid body construction, it's not. There's actually like space on the inside. So while it does feel like the foam body is a little more rigid, there is still kind of space for it to squish a little bit. The nub at the back of the dart, I'm guessing, is going to spark a lot of conversations within the Nerf world. But, you know, I guess I see it as somebody who's more of a collector, that this is like the next Nerf Dart. You know, it was 20 years we had the Streamlines, Elite Darts. Like, they were all pretty much cross-compatible, but if we look back before then, we had other types of darts that were pretty much the mainline darts. We had arrows, things like that. Always going to be experimenting. They're always going to be trying new things, and we've seen that through the recent years. Gelfire, Ultra, Mega XL, Hyper, like all that stuff. Like, they've been playing around with dart shapes, types, all that for years. To put a flag in the ground and say this is the new Nerf Dart is extremely new and kind of exciting. And there are some tangible benefits to it as well. The way that the air restrictors work now, they don't have any dart posts, so that nub acts as your gateway to the air restrictors. And from what they were telling us, that with the smart AR systems that they were able to create with this new N1 Dart, the drop-off in performance isn't as much, which is kind of exciting, because I think we all experience that on some level of having like a smart AR blaster. It's convenient, easy. But you do notice the dart performance drop off, and by the time you get to the bottom barrel, or whatever barrel is the furthest from the main barrel, you're lobbing them at that point. So it's a bold new direction, and I cannot wait to get home. They're going to send us a box, because there's no possible way I could load up my bags with all those new blasters. So I'm going to be able to get a look at those when I get home. There were a ton of blasters. We made a huge, giant mess in Hasbro headquarters. So, yeah, I think from here on out, we'll just call it from Rhode Island, and I'll head back to the studio, get the box open, and try out these blasters. Before we leave this part of the video, just wanted to thank the people at Hasbro for having me out there. It was a really cool experience, and something that I'll definitely remember. Lots of cool things to see, and to see like how it gets all made, because stuff in the toy world, right, needs a lot of prototyping, it needs a lot of iteration, and they have extraordinary tools and people to do that there. All right, I gotta go catch a plane. Now we're at the end of this video. Had a few days to think about everything that I saw regarding the Nerf N Series, regarding the Nerf N1 Dart, and my initial impressions after I got back to the hotel, I think, are pretty durable. Interesting to see Nerf sticking that flag in the ground and saying the N1 Dart is the new Nerf Dart for the 8+ category. And there is going to be a lot of discussion around what the future looks like for Nerf blasters that are replacing Nerf Elite stuff. I see a debate of sorts taking place around what the N1 Dart has in terms of its place in the Nerf community. And every indication that I saw, if I'm able to kind of price the darts according to how many come with the blasters, like, they're very affordable. This isn't going to be the super expensive Nerf Ultra stuff when those first came out. I think these are going to be a fairly affordable dart. It will be a change. It's not going to be the same Nerf Elite Dart. You're going to have to get new stuff if you want to use the Nerf N Series blasters. The N1 Dart is going to be required, but the cost of it isn't so steep, and I think that's going to be important as new people adopt this new style of dart. You're going to have the cost to be a little lower for that, so you get people to buy the blasters. Looking at it from a collector perspective, I kind of think about it in terms of accessory set. If I have a figure from the G.I. Joe Real American Hero line, or if I have one of the modern Fortnite figures that stand roughly the same size, I'm not anticipating both of the accessories are going to be compatible with another. It's great if they are, but when I'm getting new stuff, when I'm getting new lines, I'm assuming that new accessories will be coming with it. See similar things in video games. When the PlayStation 4 turned to the PlayStation 5, some things were compatible. So with the N Series, I think we can safely say that the Nerf N-Strike stock attachment point is going to be part of that, but there's no barrel lug attachment, and you're going to have to get new darts. If you look at each of the individual blasters, there is a popular analog blaster to go along with it. The agility clearly takes its cues from things like the Strong Arm, the Disruptor, things like that, but it also has that cool little priming handle to the back of the slide, which is a great idea. If I mentioned it earlier, I'm mentioning it again. More blasters need to have that. Nerf Sprinter definitely takes some cues from the Nerf Raven. That bullpup style is a classic within the Nerf community. And not only that, it's a fun blaster to use. It feels good, it feels solid, and the way that the magazines load is a much appreciated upgrade from over all of the elite stuff that we're doing. There are no more lips that feed. You don't have to prime the blasters back. Well, I guess that really doesn't apply to the Sprinter because that's the flywheel one, but it does apply to the Pinpoint a little more. People will just have fun with it. It's an easy blaster to pick up, rev, and fire darts. And the Pinpoint, like I said, very much looks like an Eagle Point. It has the bolt action prime on that. That's something that like everybody loves. That's one thing I've noticed posting a lot of videos is people like the sniper style blasters, and the Pinpoint fits that. And the fact that it's Pinpoint and Eagle Point, like you can see where they're going with this stuff. The big centerpiece blaster for this is the Infinite, which is just kind of a cool blaster. It incorporates that gimmick of that belt-fed magazine that has like that shield around it, so it's not flopping around. It makes it easy. The feed on it feels great, and it was really easy to load. You don't necessarily have to remove the magazine to reload the thing, so it's just kind of cool to have that functionality. So if you get multiple of these battle belt magazines, that's one of the things that you get with the Infinite is that you get 80 darts in that. So you could fill that thing up twice because it holds 40 rounds. And another interesting story, I don't think I mentioned this, is that like, Infinite was something that was playtested as a flywheel blaster, and they found that through playtesting that people preferred the spring-powered one. So that involved like, creating a whole new mechanism so that everything just kind of operated correctly. Out of all the blasters that I played with at Hasbro HQ, the Infinite was by far my favorite because it was just new, it was unique, it was novel. The other ones felt great. I have no complaints with them, and they're fun. Again, the Sprinter, all that kind of stuff, all very fun blasters, but the Infinite is the one that kind of stands apart. It's the one that is the most unique out of the N series, and one that I hope does well because then that means we get like cooler gimmicks with stuff like that, and I love a gimmick. That about sums up all of my thoughts on the Nerf N series. I'm excited to see what happens with it. I think for me personally, it's going just to take a little more time to get a feel of how these blasters operate and how they feel compared to other ones, because it's all still very new, it's all very fresh, and we have a whole history. Well, at least I am fortunate enough to have a whole history of blasters to compare it against and to test it out with. So this isn't going to be my only video on this, so if you want to keep in the loop with all that, so you like Nerf blasters, you like toys, you like collectibles, things like that, be sure to follow along, because that's going to be the way that you'll know when I post about all the blasters that I saw, and I have them in hand, and I'm able to try them against other blasters just to see the experiences. What different experiences do you get from one of the new N series blasters with the N1 Dart versus some of stuff from now, I guess, Nerf's past. Thank you so much for watching. That's all. That's it. See you next time.